you can take this advice, whether you're looking at an investment property or whether a real estate agent, newer to the market, or a seasoned agent, right? Focus on communication and setting expectations on both the buying side, the selling side, and also the investment side. And the deals and the opportunities will continue to flow into your life.
All right, guys, here we go now. It is time to unlock more doors to deals. We're real estate investors here. We're real estate agents here, and we all have one thing in common. We believe that we can live the life of our purpose. We can create financial freedom. We can build a better life for those that we love, and we can live the life of our dreams. I don't care if you're trying to do your first deal or your 500th this year. You can get to the next level, and we're here to help. Hey, welcome to Doors to Deals. I am your co-host and founder, Jim Manning. Today's episode can be found on doorstodeals.com/076. Today we have Drew Denham on the line. And Drew is a full-time real estate agent that's also accomplished what some feel like is impossible, but it's not really impossible. It's very possible. The majority of real estate agents, believe it or not, actually don't own any real estate investments. And this has been one of my pet peeves. It's one of the things that gets me up in the morning and trying and help change that because real estate agents, really need to be buying real estate because it's one of the best investments you can possibly make. And you're a professional at real estate already. So anyway, there's a lot there to unpack, but we're going to interview Drew here today. And Drew's big on mindset. He has a couple of really beautiful things to share on that front. And he's also has multiple doors. He's a rental property investor, and we're going to unpack kind of like what he's done there and how he's been able to get more into the investing side of things, even though his real estate agent business has been booming as well. So how he's kind of pulled off both of those. So before we get going on the episode, just a public service announcement, okay? Last year, we were able to help generate about $130,000 a month in passive income for our clients and ourselves, okay, on the real estate front. And if you are looking for a way to help your clients as a realtor invest in real estate passively, or you yourself are looking to invest passively, all you have to do is just send us over an email, deals@3doors.com, deals@3doors.com, subject it as passive income investment opportunities, and we can get you more information on how we're helping so many people out and how we can help you out too. So then finally, let's get going with our iTunes review of the week.
This week's review comes to us from DM5432356, titled, Like Listening to Money, 5 stars. DM writes, I found the podcast informative, proven, and empowering. Just the ingredients needed when one is preparing not just for real estate, but for new recipes for life. DM, thanks for your review. Jim, back to you.
All right, guys. Well, that is it for the intro. Let's get started on this episode. Hey, what's going on, guys? Jim Manning here with another Doors to Deals episode. Today, we have Drew Denham on the line. And just a little humble brag for our team here in St. Louis. We were running numbers from this past year and kind of where we were at. And we got to 620 units this past year. So that's certainly not a record across the nation, but a record for us. So something I'm really proud of. So any team members listening in, I am proud of each and every one of you. So Drew, why don't you go into kind of like your background and how you got started in real estate, man?
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And James, congratulations to you and your team for that accomplishment. That's amazing. Like I said before, I hope you guys are super proud of yourselves. So that's awesome. Thank you for having me on your podcast too. I really appreciate it. So guys, I'm from Michigan, originally from the east side of Michigan, Bay City, Saginaw, Midland, for those who are familiar with it. Went to college, went to Michigan State, got my finance degree, went back and worked for corporate America for 10 years. I bought my first house in 2011. And then after 10 years in corporate America, I was ready to get out of that scene and step into a full-time real estate role. I've been doing that for about 3.5 years now. And I'm local. I'm now located in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Okay, in Michigan. So, all right. So take me into what was going on in your head when you're in corporate America versus like the lure of real estate.
Man, that's a really great question, James. And there's so many answers to that question, but I'm super, super thankful for my 10 years at corporate America. So I worked at 2 different companies, 6 different roles, major companies here in Michigan, and I'm very thankful, all in the finance space. But it just came a point in time, it just wasn't filling my soul. I was just going in day to day, collecting my $80,000, $100,000 a year, which is an amazing, salary, benefits, all that. But I just really wasn't being fulfilled, right? And I thought about, I'm going to do this for the next 10, 20, 30 years, right? So I got to travel. I worked for a company named Amway. They're a fantastic company. I traveled the world. I went to India, China, Costa Rica. So I'm super, super thankful for that. But I just wasn't in specific roles that really fed my soul, that really got me excited in the morning to get up and go to work. And it was just time for a change. So as I mentioned, I purchased my first home in 2011. The best time to buy a house, as you know it. And I got a couple roommates, and they were paying above my mortgage. And it kind of got me thinking. And in my 10-year corporate America journey, I always had real estate as a side hustle, so to speak. So I was flipping houses on the side, buying some rentals here and there all throughout Michigan. So when the time came to transition out of my corporate America position, the realtor kind of fell just hand in hand. I knew that I love talking to people. I'm very enthusiastic. I love meeting new people. I love new challenges. There's no ceiling in real estate, right? It's not always necessary about money either, guys. It's also about impact, right? So I can create a new business structured around what I've learned in corporate America, impact people, impact people's lives, build my investment portfolio. So it's just a win-win situation, and I haven't looked back since. So it's been amazing.
Okay, so
that was a long answer for you.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic though. Yeah. You said, I'm enthusiastic, as you can tell. Oh, we can tell, Drew. We can tell you're enthusiastic. So when oh man, you're in a good mood when you're laughing at your own jokes, right? So.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit about how you're flipping houses on the side and managing a full-time job. So how'd you pull that off? Like what were you doing to do that?
Great question, James. And even to add to that, I wasn't even flipping in the same city. So I'm not stating this to boast by any means. All I want to get across to you, or not necessarily you, but also the other viewers on here, is that anything is possible, right? Sometimes we restrict ourselves, saying certain things cannot or can be done. So basically, I was on the west side of the state working for corporate America at Amway, but I'm originally from the east side of the state, and I was buying properties over there because they were significantly cheaper. So my first flip I bought in 2012 for $25,000, did all the work myself with another partner, and made $8,000. Learned so much, did all the work myself. It was amazing. But so going back to your question is, how do I manage that? I started trying to develop a team. I was fortunate enough to meet a couple contractors here on the east side of the state, very trustworthy. In fact, they had my credit card and that kind of thing. And we just started slowly building, right? I combined some money with my sister, started buying one property at a time. And as you know, the snowball effect, one turns into two, turns into three. How did I manage it? Lunchtime, getting up earlier, after work, whatever you needed to do. I remember I used to leave Grand Rapids, Michigan after work at 5:00 on a Friday, drive to the east side of the state, work on the property, get up Monday morning at 5 a.m. to be in Grand Rapids by 8 a.m. to start my 9 to 5 at Amway. And I did that for months and months and years and years and years. And it's put me into a place where I am today. And I'm so thankful for it. And it was so much hard work, but I learned so much through it.
Okay, so you mentioned that it was significantly cheaper, right, to buy there. What was the price point of your marketplace that you were living in at the time?
So in Grand Rapids, at the time, it was before I was a real estate agent. So, I mean, I was buying properties on the east side of the state. I was buying them at $20,000, $30,000. The house that I'm in right now was $18,000, and now it's worth $100,000. So back in that time, it was about a third of what it cost in my current market, if that makes sense. So on the east side, the city where I'm from, it was about a third of what it cost on the west side. And that still holds true, so to speak, for sales right now. The average sale price in Grand Rapids is 300, 320. Over here on the east side in Bay City, it's about 120, 130. So it's about that third,
Gotcha.
give or take.
And were you using, like, what was your financing strategy for those? Were you just cash out of pocket, or like, what were you doing?
I love it. So when I mentioned the first flip in 2012, I was working for Dow Chemical, a big chemical company in Michigan, and I did a 401k loan. I'm sure people have brought that up here on the podcast, but I know that might rub some people the wrong way, the Dave Ramsey followers, so to speak, but I wouldn't change anything that I did in the past because I learned so much from it. So I did a 401k loan, pulled out like $15,000, pooled it with a partner, and we bought the property for $25,000. I borrowed another $10,000, $15,000 from my sister, and I flipped my first property with a partner. So that was the start of it. After we did that, we did another one. And then all of a sudden we, snowballed the profits into 1 to 2 to 3, that kind of thing. So I have never used hard money. It's always been my own funds combined with my sister's funds. And we've built this really since like 2014, 2015.
And what was the rationale? Were you aware of like hard money and some other ways to do it, and then you just decided not to, or was this just the kind of the way you thought it worked? Like,
no, that's a really great question. I didn't know too much about it, and knowing what I know now about hard money, the market, I don't think in this part of Michigan, the fees associated with it, right? 10% interest plus the points or whatever it is. I don't think the margins could sustain the money or the interest you pay for the hard money loan. That was my reasoning back then. Certainly if I found a deal as of recently that I did not have the funds for, I would entertain hard money for sure. It's just never been something that was on my radar, so to speak, hard money, but that's just kind of what we did back years ago.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, no, that's good info. So you said it was snowballing. So were you buying and holding on to rentals then at that point, or were you just doing more flips?
So basically when I started, I was really heavily involved in flipping. Between my partner and I, we probably flipped 20 to 25 homes in our career. As of the last couple of years, I've transitioned my strategy more to buy and hold versus flipping. The tax advantages, something about, they call it mailbox money, right? So it's having that income in on a monthly basis has just really been intriguing to me. So I can maybe focus on different things that I'm super passionate about. So it's the best way I can put it, James, is in flipping, you're always in the rat race, right? You're always in the rat race. You're with contractors, you're with designers, you're looking for deals, which is super fun, right? But just these big flips that require so much improvement, it just wasn't really something that I wanted to spend a lot of my time on anymore. So I've really transitioned to more into a buy and hold type strategy.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting you bring that up because I do see the evolution of quite a few investors where start out wholesaling, kind of move into flipping, and then evolve into kind of being a landlord. And we've had people on here, I think Ron Phillips, I forget which episode it was. Ron does about 800 turnkey deals a year. And we were in a discussion about how, technically what being an investor is it's taking your money and investing it into an asset. If you're flipping a house, it's not necessarily doing that. Is it's really creating a job for yourself to generate income, just same way a doctor, will go and give a surgery for someone and then make money on that surgery, right? Like we kind of even went so far as to, in that episode kind of state that, to be a true investor, it's really, you need to buy and hold on to that asset. So I completely agree with you. And that's, so that's something that like a lot of advice I'll give people is, if you're in a corporate America job and let's say you love it, or you're a doctor, or, you're making good money and you absolutely love it. Flipping houses is probably like the worst strategy you could possibly do, because you're just creating another income stream. You already have income that you're living off of at that point, right? So buying and holding, my goodness, you can take a deal that a flipper might make $20,000 on and then get taxed for a percentage of it, where you're only walking away with, let's say, $12,000 that year by the time you get done with taxes, and turn that $12,000 flip into $100,000 plus rental over the next 20, 30 years. So, I mean, it does add up. The people with the highest net worth typically are the landlords buying and holding on to real estate. So how many rentals do you have now, man?
So I have 15 doors currently. I was actually able to pay off 2 of those last year, which is super awesome. Super thankful for that. And then I have an 8-unit pending here on the east side, and I should close probably in the next 5 weeks or so.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
And are you spending do you have like agent deals just as like a realtor for clients as well, or are you just doing the investing?
Nope. So I'm a full-time real estate agent here in the Michigan area, predominantly in West Michigan in the Grand Rapids area. So I help also a lot of other investors in Michigan purchase properties, but I also have been working on my own portfolio since 2011, buying my first house, and then kind of building since then. So I mostly I do work on the realtor side and also on the real estate investing side.
Why do you think more realtors don't actually own an investment piece of real estate?
I think I'm thinking about, that's a really great question. One of the most common questions, I'm sure, as you've heard and other guests have heard of, when you're an investor, they say, "Oh, you must be handy," right? How many times have you heard that? I hear it all the time. So I think that's a misconception, right? I'm not super handy. I can demo, I can paint and do some landscaping, but that's kind of my skill set, right? So that's a big mindset change or mindset shift some real estate agents need to change. They're afraid. I think they're scared. I've met with other buyers where their parents, millennial buyers, their parents almost talk them out of it, so to speak. I'm picking on millennials. I'm a millennial, by the way, but their parents sort of talk them out of it. It's a risk adverse, right? It's risk adverse, but I think it's almost more risky. It is risky not to diversify your income. If you have all your eggs in one basket, guess what? That can change at any time, right? So diversifying your income is, in my opinion, is the route you need to go. So I think it's a combination of education, a combination of being able to take some calculated risks, right? I don't really think real estate is all that risky, right? We've read the books, we've done our due diligence, we listen to the podcasts, we run the numbers, we have our friends look at the pro formas, they underwrite it, and you just got to pull the trigger and go for it. Worst case scenario, maybe the deal doesn't go that great, but you learned a lot, right? So a great deal can turn to a good deal, but a good deal can turn to a crappy deal relatively quick. So if you focus on the great deals, worst case scenario, it just turns out to be mediocre, right? So if you follow those guidelines and you're relatively, everyone has their own risk level, James. Some people are super aggressive. They'll look at appreciation or whatever it is, and some people will buy in cash flow. But if you're starting out and you're being a little bit conservative and you're getting help, you're doing your due diligence, you just need to go for it. So that's the long answer, but I think it comes down to risk and education.
It's interesting on like fear. I think you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think fear is a big part of it. My wife is really afraid of flying. And like whenever a little turbulence hits, like she'll just get, she'll get really freaked out. And one day I told her, I said, hey, when that turbulence hits, just so you know, like we're not going to all of a sudden snap of fingers be on the ground and like crashing. Like there's air there, and like it would be a process. Like if we were going down, like, like it would be a several minute process, not right away. And I feel like a lot of times, like before you've really done that first investment deal, it kind of feels the same way. Like, oh, I'm going to put $200,000 into this property. What if I lose all of it? You just go so fearful. And like the reality is, especially if you do a deal that's like controlled and it's not like an 80-year-old home that you're doing an addition on that it's a gut job that needs everything. If you're doing like a 20 or paint and carpet on a home or something like that, the reality is like the plane doesn't just crash and you all of a sudden lose all 200,000. There's a value there for the land. There's a value there for the roof, that often you'll find like the floor on a deal may be breaking even on a deal, even if you mess a few things up, or it might be losing more, like maybe a $5,000 loss type of thing. But it is really, out of the thousands of deals we've done, there's been a couple big losses. I'm not going to lie. But that's been the exception to the rule. That's only been, like less than 3% of everything we've done. And we've been doing it on a volume that, had we not been doing it on a volume, I don't think we would have made some of those mistakes. So
I love it. I would also add too, James, like instead of focusing on what can go wrong, focus on what can go right. And going back to risk, right? A lot of maybe newer agents or realtors that don't invest maybe think it could be risky, or maybe even go back to the corporate America example where they think it's risky. I think it's even more risky to spend 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years at a job that you don't love, right? That's risky to me, right? So again, do your due diligence, look at what could go right versus we have a tendency to look at what can go wrong and give it a shot, right? Have an experienced investor look at your numbers and roll with it and see what happens.
It's amazing how when you shift how you look at things, how it can change. That is such a wise statement, Drew, that you just made there. You reminded me of Dave Stelmachy. He was on in a few episodes ago, and he tells a story on how he quit his corporate America job. He's a licensed investor as well, guys. And it got to the point where he was like, oh my gosh, like what dad do I want to be? It's riskier for me to raise my kid in an environment where dad played it safe and never really went for it. I want to be the person that goes for it so my son can see that. And the damage that could come from that with me playing it safe or me not going all in life is way more costly than me going in and having to go bankrupt. Like not even close, so I absolutely love that. So, okay. So let's get back to your story. So now you're doing that. So it's funny is because you've been investing, but you've been doing it, really part-time your whole career. Do you ever see yourself really wanting to get in full-fledged into investing, or do you just kind of love this balance of buying some rentals and being a full-time agent? Like, what do you see for yourself, man?
You know what? I pray about that, James, all the time. I think all of us should hone in on our unique skills and abilities, right? So why are we here? How can we impact others? And what are our strengths and what are our assets to help other people live the best lives that they can? So I love being a realtor. I love the investing side. I'm also very, very passionate and in love with the mental health side. So kind of a short story. During COVID, early 2020, I really took that time to dive into myself, right? So like, where have I been and where am I going? What does my life look like, right? So like success, right? I think our society looks at success as financial a lot, right? But if you have a $5 million asset portfolio or a job that you make $500,000 a year, How about your physical life? How about your spiritual life? How about the relationship with your kids or with your wife, right? So success to me is overall. It's not just financial. It's a part of it. So with that being said, I love the mental health space. I would love to be some sort of life coach potentially someday, but I'm continuing to evolve, continuing to grow, and I'm going to see where the Lord takes me and what direction I'm supposed to be in. So I'm very thankful for my realtor space, my investment space. Since I've left corporate America 3.5 years ago, my investments have, my acquisitions have soared compared to previous years because I have more time, right? I have more boots on the ground. I'm looking at more deals, and so that is spiked. So I'm going to continue to go down that path and kind of just see where life takes me.
So Drew, what's funny is I'm listening to you talk. It's like I was just observing. I was like, man, Jim in his 20s would have heard what Drew just said and like judged him and been like, wait, what? You have this thing about being a life coach? Just go do it. Why aren't you
go do it, man?
Just come on, just get it done.
That's my intent too, Jim. Like, I don't, if there's just intermediate investors or, sounds like you have some investors too that do like major deals, which is awesome. I'm hoping I can learn from you guys too on that. But I want to give people some really good thoughts or some action items that they can think about from this podcast, right? And just say, yes, you can do that. Yes, or no, you do not have to be handy to buy your first rental property, or yes, you can take a 401k loan and Dave Ramsey won't come knocking at your door, right? All those different types of things that do your due diligence, learn, grow every day in every aspect of your life, not just financial, and opportunities will flow into your life. One other thing I want to mention too, James, on the real estate side and even the realtor and the investing space, I hear a lot of people say deals don't exist in this market. Don't buy investment properties right now. I can't find this or I can't find this for my buyer. You have to change your mindset. You have to focus on what can go good versus what can go bad, right? So be able to have the mindset to say you're surrounded by an abundance of opportunities. Are you filling your deal funnel, right? If you're just looking at the MLS every day and the hot sheet waiting for a property to come up, that's not good enough in today's market. You need to do more than that. So roll up your sleeves, be disciplined, right? And make some moves and fill your deal funnel, and time will take its course.
Absolutely. And so when I first started back in 2008, guys, people thought I was insane. They looked at me like, wait, what? The market's it's in like the middle of like the worst. It's in the middle of the worst market like in our lifetime, and you're getting into real estate. Like, what's going on? And you could get on the MLS, guys, and buy a cash flowing rental for full asking price at that point, like, because the market was tanking. And had you just done that, had you just bought up everything on the MLS for like 5 to 6 years, like, you would have been retired. Like had I done that, like, we wouldn't be on this podcast. I'd be on the beach somewhere, living the good life. But anyway,
I think you are living the good life, man. You got an awesome podcast.
That's actually a good point. You know what? I'm doing pretty darn well. Like, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. Like,
only knowing you for 25 minutes, I think even you'd be on the beach for a couple of days, then you'd be back at it.
Oh, I'd be so bored.
Help others.
The good life sounds terrible, actually, to me.
How blessed are we, though, man, to be talking? Are you Central Time or Eastern Time?
I am. Yeah. I am.
So how blessed are we to be talking at 2:00 on a Wednesday about real estate and growth and all the different ththings we've talked about. So very thankful for that.
Absolutely. And so so I guess what I was trying to say, just more, in less words, is the hustle wasn't necessarily finding the properties in that market. It was selling the properties. In this market, the hustle is finding the properties because there's little inventory, but selling the properties is a lot easier. But either way, like, no matter what market you're in, there's a problem that you have to solve, and you have to be resourceful on it, and you have to hustle on it. So like the hustle is always there. The hustle doesn't just, go away. You don't just suddenly have a problem that you don't have to solve. So yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, we did, we bought a lot of houses last year, and we did some that, I think we had a wholesale a deal that, like, last year, our highest wholesale was like 140K wholesale fee. So yeah, I mean, they are out there, guys. So let's get into this mindset thing a little bit, because Drew's hitting the nail on the head. And I have a quote that I think about a lot. And the quote goes, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions that you ask yourself.
You're in deep thought over there, James.
Yeah. So you asked yourself, why am I here? How can I impact others? How do I impact others at the best level I can? How often do you ask yourself those questions? Is this, like, just every day? Is it just kind of intuitively? Are you intentional about it? Like what are you doing there? Hey guys, for those of you that are local to St. Louis, I wanted to make sure you knew about an amazing resource that we have to help do some extra deals. You can email our team at deals@3doors.com. And just so you know, we do deals with other investors all the time. Like, it's been hundreds and hundreds over the years, and we've averaged over 100 deals with other investors per year for over the last 5 years. We can straight up buy the deal if you have a wholesale under contract that you want to sell. If you need funding to finance a flip, or like you're doing a BRRRR strategy, we have funding available for you. If you're trying to wholesale a deal, we're doing JV wholesale deals with other wholesalers that, quite frankly, some of the deals we're putting together for a beginner or an intermediate investor, they'd probably be walking away from, because we have systems and processes, and we have buyers in place that are paying top dollar for these properties. So make sure you use this resource. And the best way to get and the easiest way is to just send us an email, deals@3doors.com. All right, back to the episode. How often do you ask yourself those questions? Is this, like, just every day? Is it just kind of intuitively? Are you intentional about it? Like what are you doing there?
Super intentional. So, I mean, my morning routine is about 2 hours long. Every morning, I take a couple of days off a week to give a little bit of a break, but I ask those questions all the time, James. So, being that I'm so much more aligned, that I look at success as an overall type thing, versus in my past, I looked at success as financial, right? I'm an achiever. So success, getting over that mountain, climbing that mountain, and I'm already looking at mountain number 2 before I've even climbed mountain number 1. So very intentional with my time, which is a really big, which has been super important to me as of the last couple of years, but really focusing on my morning routine, gratitude, affirmations, meditation. I read 37 books last year. I'm on track. My goal this year is to read 52. So 1 a week. And again, every aspect, relationships, mental health, attitude, real estate, being a real estate agent, right? So if you're not growing or learning, you're dying, right? So being able to have that mindset. And once you shift your mindset into that growth mode, opportunities will continue to fall into your lap and fall into your life. And it certainly has happened with me. So continuing to grow, James, continuing to learn, and continuing to see kind of where that takes me and where I can best serve and best impact others. So,
it's hilarious. I mean, what they say, God works in mysterious ways, and you mentioned God. My faith's really important to me as well. And as an achiever, like, I almost grew up with this mindset of discontent or dissatisfaction. And I used fear, and I used the gap. Like, if I'm on step 1 and I wanted to get to step 3 on the ladder of achievement, well, like, I couldn't be content and happy, and like, because I had to use discontent to get me to step 3. And so it's interesting. Like, I'm reading this book. Well, I've already read this book twice, and now I'm kind of scanned through it a third time, called High Performance Habits. by Brendan Burchard. And what he's noticed in the ultra performers is that they don't really view things that way. They actually, the truth is really that you can do all things and still be satisfied. Like you don't have to have this discontent, or you don't have to be, like you can be completely happy with where you are and completely satisfied and hungry and motivated to get to the next level at the same time. And, so like Brendan, this is kind of a line from his book, like what happened for me is I just made what I considered a simple choice in life, to be a satisfied striver rather than a dissatisfied curmudgeon. And so I'm going through that this morning, like literally thinking through this morning, and I'm so glad you brought this up, is that, like being playful and enjoying your life, enjoying your work, like that's actually a gateway into a flow state, guys. The people that have the most successful businesses also have a tremendous amount of fun too. So it's not an exclusive thing. Like you're actually going to re-energize yourself and re-energize your passion, and by feeling good. Like if you're habitually dissatisfied, it's going to destroy your confidence. It's going to lead to some deep dark places. And what's interesting is if you think about it, like I would have told you, like, well, I was successful because I was discontent. And having studied productivity at the level that I have over the years, I was successful despite my discontent. That actually got in my way and it hurt me. So I love your headspace, man, around this. Like how have you got into such a positive energy state? Like has it been your morning routine? Like what's gotten you there?
Great question, James. And I think what I wanted to mention a couple of minutes ago too, I think you mentioned, we're talking about realtor, like why realtors maybe don't invest or why they don't do this. I think it's also needs to discipline and consistency, right? So it takes on average 66 to 365 days to develop a new habit. So every day, are you intentional with your time, right? So every day, no matter, if I want to sleep in one day or whatever it is, I get up and I do my routine because I know that in the future, I keep this compound interest, right? Day after day after day after day. All of a sudden, your subconscious says, okay, we have some new programming, right? So we're all conditioned as kids, as teenagers, as young adults based on our surroundings. But we change that. The difficult problem with that, though, is it takes some time to change your subconscious brain. So I'm very intentional and very intentional with my time, but it's that morning routine. It's also that mindset change, right? It's also looking at things that how can they go, or what's the good versus the bad, right? There's always some light in a dark time. What is it? So it's that mindset change. It did not happen overnight though, but I'm very blessed to say that I'm very disciplined. I'm a very disciplined person. When I say something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So doing that every day consistently on a daily basis, I would recommend a book to all your audience. It's called The Miracle Morning. And there's an app in there called Savers. So it's silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. So the author talks about that, typically it takes an hour and a half or 2 hours to do that. But he says on days that you're not able to do it, if you have a 7 a.m. meeting or an 8 a.m. meeting, you can condense that to 10 minutes and still do it, right? So another book that I'll mention is called The Slight Edge that I just referenced. The author says only 5% of people, the population, actually really care about their goals and actually make efforts towards their goals. What The Slight Edge says is that these small 1% compounding interest improvements day by day by day will compound a lot over a year span, right? So it's easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. You might not feel like going to the gym for 20 minutes tonight, but in the long run, if you miss today, it probably won't be an issue. But if you miss 2 days, it starts to compound, right? So being disciplined and doing those daily actions every day. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, absolutely. So One thing, it's interesting. I read the Miracle Morning, oh man, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe even more than that. The book's been around a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And what else have I done? I've done a full-fledged morning routine, and now like my morning routine's like a little bit less rigid. And I think the biggest thing about it, guys, is just to try and get in a habit and find something that works for you, is really the most important part of it. And I remember this is how much of what was the word I just used? A curmudgeon or something like that. So when my self-conscious, like not being, having like a little bit of an achiever, like a gap headspace and not having like a happiness around that. I even tried to achieve a gratitude journal at one point, and I was supposed to write 3 things in the morning and 3 things at night I was thankful for. And I would do it. I even did it for like a month straight, and I didn't feel it. I was like, okay, I'm doing this. This is stupid. I don't feel it at all. I didn't like understand it. And for me, it's been quite the journey to try and get to a joyful and a grateful place. And if you guys have another 10 hours, I'll tell you all about my upbringing and all that kind of led me to where I am. But for me, it's actually even gotten down to, I've inserted it into my prayers for God to help me with grace on that. Because like, I don't, there's like a little bit of a hole there, or like a discontent there that I have not found anything to fulfill that except God's grace. So I don't know if everybody's like that or not, but that's been my journey on gratitude. Literally needing God's grace to help me with that.
So I think you bring up a great point, James. And another book that I read called Atomic Habits, it's a super popular book. The author states that whenever you start a new habit, you need to make it relatively easy. So my routine, I've been increasing over the last year or so. So to tell someone to do a morning routine right now, a 2-hour morning routine, they're going to do it the first day and not do it the second day. I get it, right? That's a really robust routine. But what you can do is allocate 5 minutes for the next week, the next month, and then bumping up to 10 minutes, right? And increase from there. So, if you want something in life, you need to do something maybe you've never had or never done before. What's the quote? If you want something you never had, you need to do something you've never done. So make the effort and small habit increasing activities, and just make a commitment to it, but make it relatively small, right? 5-10 minutes, whatever it is, whether it's 10 minutes a day with your kid, or a 10-minute phone call with your wife, or a half hour every day prospecting leads, making phone calls, sending handwritten letters, whatever it is, right? Make the commitment.
Yeah. And the guys, if you want to be the person that makes the income that you want to make, and you're not there yet, like if you want to do that, like you have to the first step is to get there in your mind, to mentally make that shift and think and feel the way that person thinks and feels ahead of time. And we talk about mindset a lot, and we're talking about it a lot today. And it is the foundation. It is the source of getting to where you want to go. And so Drew made a comment earlier, guys, that was really important. He said, when I say something, it's going to get done. Or you said something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing.